Michael Jackson walked into the crowded New York rehearsal studio and froze. Among the dozens of professional dancers auditioning for the 1995 MTV Video Music Awards, one 13-year-old boy from the Philippines was moving in a way that made the king of pop stop everything and watch. What happened next would change both their lives forever and prove that sometimes the smallest dancers carry the biggest dreams. It was March 1995, and the Professional Performing Arts School in New York City was buzzing with excitement. Word had spread that Michael Jackson was holding auditions for backup dancers for his upcoming MTV Video Music Awards performance of Dangerous. Hundreds of dancers from across the country had descended on the city, each one hoping for a chance to share the stage with the most famous performer on the planet. Among them was Billy Crawford, a scrawny 13-year-old kid from Manila, Philippines, who had arrived in America just 1 year earlier. Billy had left everything he knew behind: his family, his early career as a child star in Filipino television, his friends, all to chase an impossible dream. His mother had sacrificed everything to send him to New York, where he enrolled at the Professional Performing Arts School alongside future stars like Mandy Moore. But Billy was different from the other students. While they had grown up with dance studios and professional training, Billy had learned to dance by watching Michael Jackson videos on a television in Manila, copying every move, every spin, every gesture until his body understood the language of movement that Michael Jackson had created. The night before the audition, Billy couldn't sleep. He lay awake in the tiny apartment he shared with other students, his heart pounding with a mixture of terror and determination. He was the youngest person auditioning, the smallest, and one of the only Filipinos in a sea of trained American dancers. What chance did he have? But then he remembered why he had come to America in the first place. It wasn't just to dance. It was to dance with Michael Jackson. That single dream had carried him across an ocean, had given him the courage to leave everything familiar behind. If you want to be among the first to discover incredible, true stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because what I'm about to tell you proves that dreams aren't measured by size or age, but by the courage to chase them. The audition was held in a massive rehearsal space in Manhattan, the kind of place where Broadway shows and major music videos came to life. When Billy arrived, he felt like the smallest person in the world. The other dancers were older, taller, more muscular. They moved with the confidence of people who knew they belonged there. Billy found a spot in the back corner and began warming up, trying to make himself invisible. He watched the other dancers throwing down incredible moves, executing flips and spins that seemed impossible. His hands were shaking, and for a moment, he considered leaving. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe he should just go back to his small apartment and accept that some dreams were too big. Then the studio doors opened, and Michael Jackson walked in. The room fell into instant, complete silence. Every dancer stopped moving, stopped breathing, stopped existing for that one eternal moment. Michael Jackson, wearing simple black rehearsal clothes and his signature fedora, moved through the space with that supernatural grace that made him seem like he was floating rather than walking. The choreographers, legendary figures Lavelle Smith Jr. and Fatima Robinson, stood beside him as Michael surveyed the room full of hopeful dancers. His eyes moved across the space, taking in each person, reading their energy, their passion, their potential. Billy's heart was hammering so hard he thought everyone in the room could hear it. He had watched this man on television for his entire life. He had studied every video, every performance, every tiny movement. And now Michael Jackson was standing 20 feet away from him. The audition began. Groups of dancers were called forward to perform combinations that the choreographers taught them. The routines were brutal, physically demanding sequences that required not just technical skill, but the ability to embody the dangerous, edgy energy that Michael's music demanded. Billy watched nervously as group after group performed. The older dancers were incredible, executing moves with power and precision. How could he possibly compete with this? Then his group was called. Billy walked to the center of the floor, his legs feeling like they might give out beneath him. He was surrounded by dancers who towered over him, making him look even smaller than he was. But something happened when the music started. Something Billy couldn't explain then and still struggles to put into words now. The moment the opening beats of Dangerous began pounding through the speakers, Billy stopped being a scared 13-year-old kid from the Philippines. He became pure movement, pure energy, pure music. He wasn't trying to be the biggest or the strongest or the most technically perfect. He was trying to be something else entirely. He was trying to speak Michael Jackson's language, the language of passion and soul and complete surrender to the rhythm. Michael Jackson, who had been sitting in a chair watching dozens of groups with professional detachment, suddenly sat up straighter. His eyes locked onto the small Filipino boy who was dancing like his life depended on it, because it did. Billy executed a spin, then a slide, then a subtle body wave that perfectly captured the dangerous, predatory energy of the song. He wasn't copying Michael's moves exactly. He was interpreting them, making them his own while staying true to the essence of what made Michael's dancing so powerful. When the music stopped, Billy was breathing hard, his heart pounding, completely uncertain of what would happen next. The room was silent. He prepared himself for rejection, for the polite thank you that would send him back to obscurity. Then Michael Jackson stood up and walked directly toward him. The king of pop moved through the crowd of dancers until he was standing right in front of Billy. Up close, Michael seemed taller than he had appeared on television, and his eyes held an intensity that was almost overwhelming. "Show me that move again," Michael said quietly. "The one at 37 seconds. Billy's mind went blank with panic. He had just been moving, not counting seconds. But Michael demonstrated the move he meant, a subtle hip isolation combined with a shoulder roll that Billy had thrown in instinctively. With shaking hands, Billy executed the move again. Michael watched carefully, then nodded slowly, a small smile appearing on his face. "That's it," Michael said. "That's the feeling I've been looking for. You're not just dancing the moves. You're dancing the music itself." He turned to his choreographers. "I want him in the front line," he said, gesturing to Billy. "He understands." The room exploded in whispered reactions. The front line. The position right behind Michael himself. The most visible position in the entire performance. And he had given it to the youngest, smallest dancer in the audition. But the incredible part of this story was just beginning. Because what happened over the next month would teach Billy lessons that would shape his entire career. Over the next 4 weeks, Billy rehearsed with Michael Jackson and the other selected dancers for the MTV Video Music Awards performance. These weren't just rehearsals. They were master classes in what it meant to be a true performer. Michael was demanding, perfectionist, and absolutely uncompromising about the quality of every single moment. But he was also remarkably patient with Billy, taking time to explain not just what to do, but why they were doing it. During one break, while the other dancers were resting, Michael pulled Billy aside. "You know why I chose you?" he asked. Billy shook his head, still not quite believing this was real. "Because you're not trying to be me," Michael explained. "You're trying to understand me. There's a difference. Anyone can copy moves, but you're copying the spirit, the intention, the heart behind the moves. That's what makes a real dancer." He placed a hand on Billy's shoulder. "Never lose that. When you get successful, and you'll get successful, never forget that dancing isn't about showing people what you can do. It's about making them feel what you feel." Those words would stay with Billy for the rest of his life. The night of the 1995 MTV Video Music Awards at Radio City Music Hall was electric. The biggest names in music filled the audience, but all eyes were on Michael Jackson's performance. This was the moment when the King of Pop would remind the world why he held that title. Backstage, Billy was terrified. His hands wouldn't stop shaking, and he kept forgetting to breathe. This was live television, broadcast to millions of people around the world. One mistake, one wrong step, and he would be remembered forever as the kid who messed up Michael Jackson's performance. Michael found him in the wings, pacing nervously. He didn't say anything at first. He just placed both hands on Billy's shoulders and looked directly into his eyes. "You know what the secret is?" Michael asked quietly. "The secret is to forget the millions of people watching. Forget the cameras, forget the pressure, forget everything except the music. When we get out there, it's just you and me and the rhythm. Nothing else exists." He smiled. "Just dance like you did in that audition. Dance like no one's watching except the music itself. Then the music began. The opening beats of Dangerous pounded through Radio City Music Hall, and Michael Jackson exploded onto the stage in a burst of controlled violence and perfect grace. Billy followed him out, and everything Michael had told him proved to be true. The moment he stepped into the lights, the fear disappeared. There was only the music, only the movement, only the pure joy of dancing beside his hero on the biggest stage in the world. For 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Billy Crawford danced in perfect sync with Michael Jackson and the other backup dancers. He hit every mark, nailed every move, and brought an energy that made him visible even in a sea of incredible performers. When the performance ended and the audience erupted in thunderous applause, Billy stood on that stage beside Michael Jackson and realized something profound. He had just lived his impossible dream. The kid from Manila who had learned to dance by watching videos had just performed with the king of pop on live television. But Michael had given him something even more valuable than that moment. He had shown Billy that talent without heart is just technique, and that the greatest performers are the ones who dance not to impress others, but to express themselves. After the performance, as the adrenaline slowly faded and reality began to sink back in, Michael gathered all his dancers backstage. He shook each person's hand, thanking them for their professionalism and dedication. When he reached Billy, he paused. "This won't be your last big stage," Michael said quietly, so only Billy could hear. "I can see in the way you move. You're going to have an amazing career. Just promise me you'll remember what I told you. Always dance from your heart, never from your ego." Billy nodded, unable to speak through the emotion that was overwhelming him. "You have a gift," Michael continued. "And gifts aren't just given to make us happy. They're given to make others happy too. Share yours with the world." Then Michael Jackson gave Billy something that the young dancer would treasure for the rest of his life. He took off one of his rehearsal wristbands, the simple black elastic band he had worn throughout their month of rehearsals, and handed it to Billy. "So you remember," Michael said with a smile. "So you remember that the kid from Manila danced with the king of pop, and that the king of pop believed in him." Billy Crawford went on to have the career that Michael predicted. He recorded his first album at 15, achieving massive success, especially in Europe with hits like Trackin', which reached #1 in the Netherlands and went platinum in France. He sold over 2 million records worldwide, becoming one of the most successful Filipino artists internationally. But more importantly, Billy never forgot the lessons Michael Jackson taught him during those 4 weeks in 1995. In interviews throughout his career, he constantly referenced what Michael told him about dancing from the heart rather than the ego. In 2022, at age 40, Billy Crawford won the French dance competition Danse avec les stars, Dance with the Stars. When he was crowned champion, he dedicated his victory to Michael Jackson, the man who had seen potential in a scared 13-year-old kid and given him not just an opportunity, but a philosophy that would guide his entire life. Today, when Billy teaches young dancers in the Philippines, he passes on the same wisdom Michael gave him. He tells them that size doesn't matter, age doesn't matter, and where you come from doesn't matter. What matters is whether you have the courage to chase your dreams and the humility to dance from your heart. He still has that black wristband that Michael gave him, carefully preserved in a frame in his home. Next to it is a photograph from that night at the MTV Video Music Awards, showing a tiny 13-year-old Filipino boy dancing beside the greatest performer who ever lived. The story of Billy Crawford and Michael Jackson reminds us that greatness recognizes greatness, regardless of age or size or background. Michael Jackson, who could have chosen any dancer in the world, saw something special in a kid who had crossed an ocean chasing an impossible dream. And by believing in Billy, by teaching him and encouraging him and giving him that chance, Michael didn't just change one boy's life. He showed all of us that dreams are never too big when you have the courage to pursue them. Michael Jackson taught Billy Crawford how to dance. But more importantly, he taught him why to dance. Not for fame, not for applause, not to show off technical skill, but to connect with people, to make them feel something real, to share the gift that music gives us when we surrender to it completely. In that lesson, passed from the king of pop, to a 13-year-old boy from Manila, continues to inspire dancers and dreamers around the world who dare to believe that they too can share a stage with their heroes if they're willing to work hard enough and dream big enough. Subscribe and share this story of how Michael Jackson discovered a young talent and changed his life forever. Have you ever had someone believe in you when no one else did? Share your stories in the comments below, and let's celebrate the mentors who see potential where others only see obstacles. This content is based on documented historical events and combines factual information with narrative storytelling for educational and inspirational purposes.